back to it.
Well, guys, here we are, our very first episode, and I'm super excited. I can't think of a better guest to have to start out the very first podcast YouTube show of Boss Talk, and having one of the co-founders of Country Boy, Daniel Harrison, aka DH.
Thank you, sir.
On the show to talk to us about some really cool stuff. One of the things, like I said, I've been following you guys for a long time, and just I just from a business perspective and marketing, just from an entrepreneurial perspective, what you guys have done, just in the craft beer industry, just in Kentucky itself, for Kentucky, you guys are like superstars where I grew up.
Well, you're way too kind.
But
Thank you for that, though. It's been a wild, fun ride. We've had a lot of help along the way, a lot of good beneficiaries and some good luck too. But it's been a fun ride. We're not ready to quit yet.
Well, heck no, we can't quit. So with that being said, one of the things we want to talk about for our audience is to understand a little bit of how that wild ride started. Right. Where you were at, where you're at now, and where you guys are going. So I just love, like I said, just the branding, your product, the culture you guys have created. I mean, where we're from, other than Toyota, you guys are the biggest thing around. So it's just great to have you here. And some of the stuff I tell everybody is I play a little mental game in my head, and I've done it for like 2 years now. Is like, can I go a day without seeing a Country Boy logo? And it has been 2 years, and I cannot. And that's great. I mean, that's what you want. That shows you that you are doing great. And before we started, you had a little story about seeing a logo somewhere. And where was that at?
Somewhere in Juarez, Mexico. Someone said they saw a sticker that was behind the bar, and they were like, "Who put that there?" And so I said, "Listen, I've never been to Mexico, let alone Juarez. I'm not going to ask what you were doing at a dive bar in Juarez because I may not want to know that answer. But it's fun, man. People love to take the gear and take pictures with it all around the world. Really, we've got a campaign that Cheney, who runs our office and is vital in our social media effort, started, which is CBB Travels. That even though it's just we're a local small beer company, man, people love to take the brand with them and
That's
share
so
with
great.
people around the world. So it's been a lot of fun, and like I said, it's just we never dreamed that it would be that, but it's pretty cool.
Well, we'll get into that dreaming too in a minute. One of the things I want to ask is, since you started this, what other jobs did you have before Country Boy? Because I mean, you just don't wake up and, well, maybe you do, and it says, hey, I'm going to start making beer. So give the audience, let the people know what you did before.
This is what's fun, because like I'm a simple farm kid from Sadie'ville. My parents weren't farmers, but they worked a lot, so we lived with an old couple that was down the road. They were old tobacco farmers, and so we grew up around, like a lot of people did, that grew up from rural Kentucky, with that culture and that mindset of the farming community. Through high school, I got a job working for one of my dads. My dad was a dentist here in town. His office manager / receptionist, her husband, had a car lot here in town, so I started detailing cars and washing cars in the car lot after school. A lot of shenanigans went down, you can imagine, with young me at a car lot.
But you're talking to people, and you're working with people.
Right, learned how to drive a stick shift, one of the most beneficial things I took from that job.
Hard to do nowadays.
Then, through college, worked at the Honda shop in Richmond, a motorcycle and ATV shop that a buddy of mine had. On and off, worked there for about 6 years. I mentioned earlier that from the Honda shop, I've got so many stories and life lessons and things that were kind of picked up and gleaned from the things you can learn from a couple country guys from urban that worked in the service department, that some of you probably can't say on air, but I learned a lot of life lessons and a lot of fun, a lot of customer service. That's probably where I cut my teeth on. I was the one that they would put on the phone if somebody was upset.
Oh, wow.
I learned how to diffuse situations with upset customers really quickly.
How old are you when that was going on?
Early 20s.
That's awesome. That's great.
And here's the only secret out there, and this is just a little nugget that you can put out there. If somebody's upset, the only thing they really want to know is that you understand why.
That's great. That's true.
That's the main thing I took from it. They don't really want to know how you're going to fix it. They kind of want to know that down the road. They don't want to know why it happened, whose fault it was. They just really want to know that someone else understands their plight in the world. And usually by the end of the call, I'd have them apologizing to me over something that we screwed up. It's just, that's probably, I went to the Patterson School of International Diplomacy and Commerce. international commerce and diplomacy. I guess all diplomacy is international, not all of it, most of it. Uh,
Yeah,
that's
pretty
one of
much.
the things that we learned from there. Diplomacy is saying nice doggy while you look for a big stick, or letting other people have your way. I think there's a bunch of telling people to go to hell in such a way they look forward to the trip.
Yeah.
All these little fun things we say about diplomacy. But from there, probably the biggest thing that changed drastically the trajectory of my life was I got an email from Georgetown College, where I went to undergrad, that said they were looking for English teachers in the sister city of Georgetown in Tahara, Japan. The reason Toyota is here in Georgetown is because this is the place that Toyota picked for a lot of different logistical reasons. But we're a sister city with Tahara because that's kind of where the big Lexus plant is, close to Toyota City. So because of that relationship, the college staff's English teachers in the public school system over there, and I didn't know anything about Japan, didn't know anything about the Japanese language, culture, anything. I just always loved to travel, been blessed to go a lot of different places and see a lot of stuff. Was kind of spinning my wheels at the Honda shop, took a chance, went to Japan. That's where I got into craft beer.
You were an English teacher in Japan?
I was an English teacher in the public school system in Japan for a span of about 3 years.
So you didn't know anybody in Japan. You didn't know the.
Long story short, spoiler alert. One of the guys that I ended up going over there with is now one of my partners in the business at Country Boy.
So we're going to get into that too. So keep going. But yeah, that's
Nathan
awesome.
Coppage took that plunge and that that
he went there
risk
as well?
with me. Yeah, so we both applied for the position they were staffing to that year. We both got it independent of each other. Now I knew Nate before because we were actually in the same fraternity. He was a little younger than me. I didn't really know him, but I did have a guy that I at least had some connection to that when we went over there. Lo and behold, the way the good Lord works, my neighbor I'd actually gone to grad school with, Vanessa Shepard at the time. Now Vanessa Grossel, she's a great person, lives in Lexington. Actually moving to Georgetown. We're converting her back to Scott County.
There you
awesome.
go. Well, she need a real estate agent?
She may need to call Brick House.
That's what I'm talking about. There we go. See how we threw that in there real quick?
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
But, so I had some people that I knew, but I really know nothing about the country or what I was getting into. Just was down for an opportunity. Started if you're in Japan for any amount of time and you're going to plan on being there, you've got to kind of get into something. I've been blessed, like I said, to travel a lot of places. One of the things I was always good at was I could kind of blend in. When I did a lot of humanitarian aid efforts and some mission work in Bosnia after the war, spent 6 consecutive summers there.
That's awesome.
Did a lot of
That's
backpacking.
amazing. That's a story in itself right there.
Right.
To talk about.
And love the country, love the people. I had a lot of awesome experiences there. If you give me about a month after I was in the country, as long as I didn't open my mouth, I could kind of pass that I was, I could kind of blend in at least. I don't know how much you know about Japan, but it's virtually difficult for a white dude like me to blend in.
Yeah.
So you got to find something to get into because while it is a super amazing culture, the people are very open and it's the most giving culture I believe on the planet. It's still very guarded to get past the layers of the onion with Japanese people in the culture. And so I had friends that got it. Right.
Yeah.
With friends, I had friends that got into, like Vanessa was big into Japanese flower arranging, and she was involved in the Sahara International Society and had a core group. I had another friend that was involved and really got into like Japanese history and culture. Nate and I just liked beer, and so we kind of found our niche. We started a blog about craft beer in English. I like to tell everybody I'm a reformed craft beer blogger. But we had a blog about craft beer. And basically what we were doing is we were saying, hey, here's some anecdotal stories and fun stuff that we would write about our experiences of 2, Kentucky guys living in Japan. But it was kind of like a roadmap of, hey, if you just found yourself in Japan, if you want to find microbreweries, if you want to find what craft beer's out there, here's a way in English to do
smart.
so. There weren't a lot of English blogs back then. So it would be like, hey, if you're going to Hamamatsu, here's a brewery that's there. Here's how to get there in English, and ask for Mr. Yamamoto. He might speak a little bit of English, right? So that's what we did.
What was the time frame in that?
2006.
Okay. About 13. Well, I got to do my math. Let me take my shoes off. It was about
almost 15 years ago. 14 years ago. It's crazy.
Oh man, that's crazy.
It would have been 2006, 2007, 2008. It was in its heyday. Back, that's not when like the onset of blogs. But blogs were still very popular then. That was in the days of MySpace and the prehistoric times of the social media sphere. Yeah. But through the blog, we actually met a guy named Brian Baird who had a company called Baird Brewing. He and his wife, Sayuri, started in 2000. And we fell in love with, we ended up just starting, hey, we're going to interview Brian for the blog. And when we met him, I just fell in love with him, with his passion. I say I'm infected, which is a bad word to use in the beer industry, but I was infected by his passion in his craft and his culture that he had at his brewery, and his take on it. And he'd always say, like, listen, I'm brewing Japanese beer more than Japanese people are brewing it, because we're using Japanese techniques, we're using Japanese fruits and vegetables, we're using a Japanese ethos, which is, you know, we're going to dedicate our life to the perfection of our craft. It's a very Japanese mindset of how he went about it. And ended up, for the blog kind of changed, we ended up hanging out at Barrett all the time, and he's the one that really started the dream in our minds that we could come back to Georgetown and do this, like Kentucky and do it.
So in Japan, was there like a big craft beer, what's one looking for, culture at that time? Like way before
This
us,
is
or
one of
was
the
it
funny
just-
things. Yeah, as my dad says, my extensive knowledge of Japanese craft beer and a couple bucks will get you a cup of coffee, because it's basically useless.
Yeah.
But Japanese microbrewing was legalized in the mid '90s, and they kind of stubbed their toe out of the gate with what they did. You know, the very Japanese way. They said, okay, if we're gonna make beer, we're gonna go to who knows beer best, German people, and we're gonna bring some Germans over here, and they're gonna teach us how to brew. Which was cool, and they had some like nice beers, but brewing is very different than a lot of the Japanese processes and mindsets of step A, step B, step C, step D. We make this, brewing never goes to plan. You always got to innovate. You always got to kind of adjust on the fly. And so, because a lot of the people didn't have that background in brewing, a lot of people got a bad taste in their mind about what beer was in Japan and what craft beer was, or what, they said a lot of Japanese people would still think of beer as, well, there's dark beer and there's like normal beer.
Yeah.
Which, as we know, there's all different types of beer.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's thousands of different styles and everything else. So it was gaining in popularity at that time. And I think we were just happened to be at the right time, right place to meet Brian when his brewery was in his heyday, won a bunch of like worldwide awards at that time. And he really charged us in a very Eastern Japanese way of when he was like, when you guys go back to Kentucky, what are you going to do? And just like anyone that's ever homebrewed before, we were like, we're going to start a brewery. It's going to be awesome. And he very, very, like I said, directly charged us with, DH, when you go back, you need to learn the business side of it. You're going to talk about it. Nate, you're going to learn how to brew it. And so I came back in 2008, and I was living upstairs of where we are sitting right now, living in the apartment upstairs. All my friends had jobs.
So real quick, where we're sitting right now, it's live, so you're going to hear sirens and stuff. So hopefully those sirens are helping people. Everybody's all right, or they're just, it is what it is. But we're going to go through that noise and just keep rolling and basically learn. Keep rolling and learn.
In the heart of downtown Georgetown.
The big heart of Georgetown.
That's right. But I was living upstairs in the apartment. And one day, like I said, all my friends had jobs. I was kind of spinning my wheels again. I'd had to come back from Japan. I was looking to go back. I'd met Brian. I had wanted to get the beer thing going, but my girlfriend, now wife, was still in Japan. I wanted to go back. So as I was trying to find that next opportunity to be able to get back to Japan to teach, I saw a sign go up on a window across the street. It said, if you want a job serving food at this restaurant that's coming, call this number. Call the number. Lady named Stephanie Jones picked up the phone.
Neighbor of mine.
I said, hey, I want to come work for you. She said, cool, come in for an interview. I met Dan Galvin and Lee Jones for an interview later that week. They said, have you ever served food before? I said, no. They said, have you ever bartended before? I said, no. They said, have you ever made food in like a restaurant kitchen before? I said, no. They said, well, cool. You can expo, which means you're just going to help the food make it from the line out. And I think that first night I went from like expo to server to bartender, because I could talk to people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so really got into the craft beer world on that side of it through the Galvins here in Georgetown.
Wow.
Went back to Japan for another year and a half, 2 years. When I came back, because I had gotten married to my wife, we had our first, we have been married to the same woman 3 times, once at the courthouse in Japan, once at a Japanese ceremony, once back here. So if it doesn't stick, it's my fault. But because she was coming back, the way the visa worked, I had to have a job. So Dan and Lee and Stephanie and Andrea were so kind to let me manage a fine dining restaurant that they had here in town. They ended up transitioning that restaurant when they sold it to Rodney's. It still operates Rodney's on Broadway. Great spot here in town.
So
I managed that spot, came back, but that's where I really cut my teeth on the industry.
So as you grew, you started seeing and working on your strengths. One was your strength. You found those strengths. One was at the car dealership, talking to the customer, doing customer service, because nobody wanted to do that. Basically, people just want somebody to listen to them,
right,
and be compassionate about what they're frustrated about. Then you go to Japan and you see you see a void, right? Nobody's doing something, and you're doing something that you like to do, and basically create this blog, which is smart because there's nobody doing that back then, right?
Right.
So somebody that's doesn't know where to go has access to a computer, and there's a little bit of marketing there, can read that and sees that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So I'm assuming one of you had to speak country English to the folks there, because when they came here, there's some slang that they had to get and know, right? So either you or Nate, but so you come back, and then basically you get in the service industry, and you see what down the road are going to be your customers, right? And you understand that, you start to understand that business.
Right. We, microbrewing was like when we opened up in 2012. Long story short, met my partner Jeff and my partner Evan Cobbage, Nate's brother, in 2011. All four of us came together with the idea, hey, we can start this brewery. We're going to call it Country Boy Brewing.
Somebody had to make that up and
All right,
think about that.
Let me jump back to
that
tie it up
is
here with a
too
nice
cool.
little.
Where'd the truck come from? The colors.
Well,
we need to know all about that.
We knew. Listen, I'm great at what I'm good at. I think as I get older, I know what I'm not good at.
Yep, that's very key, because I'm the same way. I know, and I have to surround myself with people that are really. I'm not good at a lot of stuff, like smiling and talking and stuff. That's pretty much it. And I don't
Right.
stress
I
very
got both
well.
those down.
I don't stress much, but everything else, I have to have people do that for me because I suck at it.
We had the vision for the brewery. We knew we wanted to have this microbrewery, and I kind of knew the feel, what it was going to be, but we didn't have a lot of business sense back then, and so I knew we needed somebody to kind of be that piece for us. And so there was this guy that I met when I was bartending at Galvin's, this craft beer guy. Seemed pretty cool, a little bit older than us, had some business experience. So I told Nate, hey, I've got this guy.
You made him how? How'd you meet him? He was at the bar talking?
We met him at Galvin's.
That's awesome.
Just one of my customers that was there.
Yeah.
Told Nate, hey, man, I know we want to start this brewery thing. I think we need help. I got a guy. Nate says, hey, I agree, but I've got a guy too. I met a local dude at a homebrew meeting, the Lexington Homebrew Club.
And you didn't know this guy that
No.
Nate had. You didn't know him at all.
I said,
Okay.
Cool. I said, well, that sounds great. He said, this guy's a little bit older than us too. He's just won a big beer award, won an All-Tech Pro-Am with his Kentucky Cold Porter that he had. He said, I think we should talk to this guy too. I said, sweet, fair enough. We'll meet with my guy first. It's on the third floor of this building, on my old bar that was upstairs. I said, cool, we'll meet my guy first. And so Jeff walks in, and Nate's like, hey, I thought we were meeting with your guy. This is my guy. Right? And so we kind of like looked at each other.
No
and
way.
We had both met the same
I did not
person.
know that.
Yeah.
So you had both met the same
Jeff Beagle
person.
from Cynthiana. Nate had met him through the Homebrew Club. I had met him through Galvin's, and we had both agreed that this is a person that we thought could help us with our business, and it was the same person that we didn't. So
I'm
just
getting
how
chills. I didn't know that. So that's pretty cool.
How the Lord works in mysterious ways. We
That's
we
a
both
sign.
meet Jeff. Nate's brother Evan had just graduated his graduate program, and he's the only one that has like a real science background. And Evan was like, "Listen, I'm into this beer thing. I want to be a part of it too." So we're like, sweet, we got the four people we need. What are we gonna call it? All right, we know we want to start a brewery. We're gonna be in Kentucky. We're gonna open up in Lexington. Georgetown was still dry at the time. Nate and I said, well, listen, let's not overthink it, because it's not what we're good at. We don't have money to hire a marketing firm. We don't have money to hire a design team. What are we gonna call it? And so Nate and I were like, listen, our blog that we had in Japan was called Good Beer and Country Boys, right? Because a lot of our friends that were in Japan that were expats, I think they had more culture shock hanging out with Nate and I than they did with the Japanese people. Because most of your English teachers in Japan were from like California.
That's
They're
right,
like, who
right.
are these Kentucky hill
crisp,
jacks?
right?
They,
Smooth sentences.
What's
up, fellers?
Right. How do these hill jacks end up in Japan teaching English? And so we just called the blog Good Beer and Country Boys, because that's what it was about. So we said, listen, let's just call it Country Boy Brewing. And somehow in 2012 or 2011 when we started, Country Boy Brewing wasn't taken yet, right? Because there were only 2,000 breweries in America back then.
So 2,000 breweries.
It was just coming on.
2011.
Good friend of mine from high school, Cody Chatham, an amazing designer. I told him, hey man, like we're gonna need a logo, but we got no money. Yeah. And Cody's like, cool, I think I could do something neat. So he meets Jeff and I and Nate and Evan at the apartment, and he says, okay, I've got a couple ideas for the logo. We didn't even know the terms like mark and like the brand, and we had no idea. We said, hey, we just need something to put on our Facebook page, right?
This was about 2010,
This would
2011?
have been 2011.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so Cody says, I got 3 different ideas, 3 different avenues of what the logo can look like. He said, I'm going to show them all 3 to you. Don't fall in love with any of them, right?
Okay.
Until I show you all 3 of them. Don't
Okay.
make a decision yet. He opens the computer up. There's the truck and stars, the Country Boy Circle logo. We said, I love it. And to this day, I've never seen the other two. That is a true story.
Awesome. That's
We
so
said,
cool.
that's it, dude. We love
That
it.
is awesome.
And so, but a lot of people tell us we've created this iconic brand, and I think it's awesome. I think it's great, but it's a lot of luck, man, and it's a lot of people's generosity and goodwill because we never going into it. Your brand and your name and your mark is one of the most important things you can do, and we put zero thought into it because all our effort went into the beer, and somehow it's worked out.
I disagree. I think basically, I'm not a big fan of the word luck. I would rather say opportunity.
Right.
You know what I mean? Vision, passion, and desire. You're going to make the brand would have been there no matter what because you would have figured it out. You really would have. The fact that you put something together that you enjoyed, you recognize what you're strong at, and you were smart enough. The college degree helped out a little bit, didn't it? You were smart enough to know, to put the folks around you that are good at what they're doing, and you just become this superpower, basically. To kind of to start something that is hard now not to succeed.
Like that.